back, everybody, to the Almost Sideways podcast. We're so glad you are joining us. It is episode 120, and we are coming to you Sunday, April 4th at about 4:15 p.m. Pacific time. Happy Easter. I'm your host, Terry Plucknett. Joining me, as always, are Todd Plucknett and Zach Saltz. Todd, I was texting you all last night. Jalen Suggs.
Yeah, if you want a reason to pick him number one overall in the NBA draft, like that game is his showcase. Block, full court, bounce pass, all within 5 seconds, like boom, done.
And then the coach knows that, he's taking a shot from half court for the game. It's going in. Zach, you were watching, right?
Oh, I was just not really caring. No, of course I was watching. Who wasn't watching that? That was the best college football game or basketball I've ever seen. That was amazing. And first of all, I was texting Todd too. What did you think about learning that Jaime Jaquez's parents are Concordia alum? I think that's the big story out of the game.
I didn't hear that. I must have missed that part.
Concordia Irvine, but no,
Irvine. Still Concordia.
The truth is, though, that was the greatest college basketball game I've ever seen, and I had no respect for UCLA going into that game. I thought Todd and I were texting that they were the worst Final Four team ever. They completely obliterated that. My hat's off to them. Go Bruins, I guess.
They couldn't miss a shot.
They couldn't miss. It was like Bill Walton had incarnated himself in the spirit of that team, and it was a spectacular sight to behold.
It is Conference of Champions, but yeah. I don't know. The best college basketball game I've ever seen, I always say, is the second Butler team that made it to the finals. The 8-1 matchup between them and Pittsburgh. That was the best game I've ever seen. It was the highest quality college basketball game I've ever seen. But this was right up there because there were I saw 19 lead changes, and it was just, and both teams, like their combined shooting percentage was the highest since 1985 in a Final Four game. That game was insane.
It had all the makings of an upset, except Gonzaga's just that good. Like, Todd texted me at halftime and said, UCLA just had their best half of the season, and they're down by 1. That's all you got to say. And I also texted them that you're a good team when there's a 5-way debate on who your best player is.
Well, who's happiest, the big winner out of this whole game is Adam Morrison, because now whenever we talk about UCLA Gonzaga, we're not going to have to show him crying anymore. We're going to show Jalen Suggs instead.
It's true. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Well, it is in the middle of award season. Make sure that you are subscribing, rating, and reviewing our podcast so more people can hear our discussions as we get closer and closer to the Oscars. I know Todd and Adam just recorded a podcast yesterday for Daily Notes. That'll be on our channel, where they discuss their Independent Spirit Award ballots.
Are you allowed to do that?
I don't know. Voting closes on Friday, so I really don't think it's an issue.
There's no embargo or anything, right?
Yeah, I never got anything that said I couldn't disclose what I was going to be voting for.
So you're not like that anonymous, Oscars leaker to the Hollywood Reporter every year who complains about, all these young themed movies. Whatever happened to John Wayne?
No, I don't think so. Okay. It's the Spirit Awards.
The rules mean a little less at the Spirit Awards, I think.
We even ranked how we are each category too. So it was fun. It'll be a fun listen once it comes out.
So before this comes out, you will have that available to you. I'm actually posting it as soon as we're done recording. So that'll be out later on today.
Do you have the ability as voting members to nominate Lifetime Achievement Award recipients? Because you both should nominate Mickey Rourke.
Anything to get him back on stage. Yeah. I know we don't.
Or Eric Roberts.
We actually don't even get to decide the nominations. We only get to decide the winners. So, which is kind of unfortunate, but I guess it doesn't matter. Last year Uncut Gems would have won everything anyway. So.
So listen to the podcast, but Todd, I just want to get one thing from you. Was there one category where you and Adam were like polar opposite on something? Like, what was your biggest discrepancy of any category? I know it's rare that the two of you disagree on something, so this is kind of big.
Well, I don't think we disagreed necessarily on any winners. Like it would be like I had something second, he would have it fifth or something like that. It wasn't like a crazy disagreement, but he also hadn't seen everything yet, so it was a little it was a little iffy.
Okay.
My favorite category is best first screenplay, though. There's some really good stuff there.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah. Make sure that you subscribe, rate, review, so that can be heard. This is we're on Apple Podcasts. I know, graphics. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Pandora, Spotify, and
I like
of course,
how
YouTube.
Daily Notes is just a little smaller than Almost Sideways. It's nice, a subliminal dig there, just a little bit, Keep it subtle.
The funny thing is, Adam's the one that made that graphic. So,
oh, okay,
yeah.
Maybe we can read into that or something.
Self-humility there or something.
Well, it's like the Red and Brown podcast, the Evan Williams.
Yeah, the Evan Williams to our Jack Daniels. Well, that is a perfect lead into what are we drinking? Zach, what beverage are you partaking of for our podcast today?
Agua Fria.
Agua Fria.
Too many drunk dials.
I love how it's always in a Starbucks cup. Like, do you go to Starbucks to get that, or do you just have Starbucks?
This is the same cup that's made multiple appearances on this show, and the germs inside it. So it's like a supporting character. It wins Big Tim, High Roller, minor character of podcast.
Do you only have a straw so you don't spill it on yourself?
No, I think it's more fun to drink with a straw, because if I don't drink with a straw, who doesn't like drinking with a straw? I mean, when given a choice, the straw is always the optimal option, right?
It's like you're sucking on a baby Schwanz, or whatever that quote is.
I was thinking, I thought you were referencing that he might have an airplane level drinking problem. But yeah. Todd, what are you drinking?
This is white rum with pineapple juice and cran blackberry juice. So it kind of tastes like a Jolly Rancher, honestly. It's really good.
I was going to say, the sugar content probably off the roof in that.
All right. Well, I went to the brewery and got their latest brew that they just came out with. So this is Ridgewalker Brewery, Forest Grove, Oregon. Shout out to them. Go check them out if you haven't done so yet, if you're in the area. This is their Flatten the Nerve West Coast IPA. And because of baseball starting up this week, I'm wearing my Mariners shirt, and it's the return of the baseball bat mug. So there we go. That's what we're going with. Even though it's last year's team and half these guys don't play for the Mariners anymore, I'm still drinking out of it.
Okay, the quote I said was actually from Crazy Stupid Love. You guys should have known that. You like that movie more than I do. He tells him, "Don't use a straw." And then he's like, "It's like you're sucking on a tiny Schwanz."
I don't know. I only watched the scene in that movie where they all get in the fight on the mini golf course. I don't remember that other scene. Or the male makeover.
Mini golf? Isn't that the backyard?
Yeah. Same thing.
All right. Well, let's get
off the
into
rail quickly.
Yeah, we really have. It doesn't take long. All right. Well, what have we been watching? Zach, you're first. What did you watch this week?
Okay, well, I want to I did watch a Netflix movie called The Block Island Sound, which was stupid. I don't want to talk about it. But I do want to mention, so Todd has his gimmick of Nicolas Cage. Terry has his gimmick of, best makeup winner from 36 years ago or whatever. I have a new gimmick that I'm launching today.
Yes.
Get ready, influencer. This is I had to collaborate with Adam on this a little bit. We had to think of some ways to pitch it. But here it goes. I'm going to review from here on out a new Criterion Collection release every week. And it has to be a film that I have not seen, The more obscure, the better, because if it's not about the hits, then what are we doing this for, right? So this week's Criterion. Now, normally I will try to have the copy of the Blu-ray or DVD that I watch. This week, unfortunately, it was something that I had rented from the library, and I'm a good little German soldier. I like to return things on time, but I should have kept it. It is speaking of German, it is a German film from 1975 that I had never really heard of before, called The Lost Honor of Katharina Blum. And it is directed by Volker Schlondorf and Margaret von Trotta. And Volker Schlondorf, actually, they're both fairly well-known German directors. Volker Schlondorf actually did, I believe, some American movies. He did The Ninth Day. He also did Death of a Salesman with Dustin Hoffman. The Lost Honor of Katharina Blum is set in Berlin in the 1970s, a split East Berlin, West Berlin dynamic going on. And it is about this young woman, Katharina Blum, played by Angela Winkler, not Angela Merkel. And at the beginning of the movie, she is partying and having a great time. And she meets this guy at the party, and she goes and he comes back to her place. He wins the biggest stick man of the movie, by the way. It turns out he is a terrorist who's associated with the Baader-Meinhof complex, which is another good movie, which is actually not on Criterion. But they were actually a real terrorist group in Germany in the 1970s. And so as a result, the police and the press become obsessed with Katharina Blum, because was she hiding and abetting this terrorist? What was she doing? Well, let's talk about her sex life a little bit. They kind of go into all these lurid details. Now, it does turn out that she does have a little bit of a leftist streak in her, but the truth is the movie is really about how, I guess in the 1970s, particularly in West Germany, the police and the press were teamed up, colluding to try to suppress any sort of, civil disobedience. And it's kind of one of the rare movies that has gotten a Western sort of distribution that is actually pretty critical of West German politics. It's an interesting movie, especially in light of the fact that we just watched another 70s spy movie, Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion. This is a better movie. However, I do have to say it is a pretty dated movie in a lot of respects. It is very much in that 70s mold of paranoia, almost like the parallax view and, all the President's Men type. There's not a lot of music in this movie. The color scheme is really drab. It's an interesting movie. It's like a 2.5-star movie, but the reason why I watched it is because it's part of the Criterion Collection. So, of course, in my segment now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the extra features. And as is true with a lot of Criterion movies, the extra features were actually better than the movie, okay? The best extra feature on it was a sit-down with the directors, Volker Schlondorf and Margaret von Trotta. And first of all, they're two of the only married people that I've ever heard of that directed a movie. We have Valerie Ferris and that other guy, and I think they make movies too. But it's kind of interesting hearing them talk about it because they have very different ideas for what the movie was going to be. It was von Trotta's first film, and actually she was thinking about being she wanted to play the lead role in the movie. And there's like a hint of a little bit of jealousy between her maybe and the actress. I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it a little much. The interview's in English, and they talk a lot about how the story evolved from this real-life author Heinrich Böll in his experiences as a publicized, celebrity in the 70s. It just kind of makes me think, I don't know if I could ever direct a movie with my spouse. I don't know if I could ever direct a movie with anybody, but in particular my spouse, I think it would be really interesting. But maybe as a Criterion special feature, it would work. So a 2.5-star movie, better than the one we watched a couple weeks ago. I love the Criterion Collection, and I'm looking forward to more obscure, particularly European, Asian, international movies to talk about on this podcast.
I like it. It's a good gimmick. It fits you.
Exactly. Well, if the movie's boring, then you can watch the special features. That's the best thing about the Criterion Collection.
See, I just want you to keep reviewing German movies so we can hear you try and say the names in that German accent you got.
Yes. I was looking for Peter Simonischek, but he did not make an appearance in this movie, sadly.
After you said Victor Schlondorf for the third time, you started the next half sentence was still in German, like dialect.
There are a lot of names. There's Katharina Blum and Heinrich Böll. I don't know. That's all I got. I feel like that scene in Funny People when Adam Sandler's like, the movie where you kill Bruce Willis. So that's every time I hear German names, that's what I think.
I want to know how long it's going to be until you subscribe to the Criterion channel.
I only do physical media. I refuse to do anything.
Ooh.
As we talk about a Netflix movie in 10 minutes. But that aside, I like the physical media. I'm old school.
He likes the physical media. He hates
that I don't actually have here. It's invisible,
He hates anything that isn't a masterpiece that he has to go to the movies for. But
that's true.
But yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. I like the gimmick. Let's keep it up. I like that one. All right. Well, it's time for my gimmick. So my Oscar anniversary watch, going back 10 years. And I don't know if you're going to get this, but we can try. It is a lone nominee for Best Animated Film, and it is French. That's what I'm giving you.
From 10 years ago?
From 10 years ago. So 2010, Best Animated Film, and it's
Have any of us seen it?
Todd and Adam have seen it, according to the website. I gave it 3 stars. Adam gave it 2.5. What?
When Marnie was there?
Nope.
Is that French? No.
And was not nominated that year.
Oh, I'm probably in the wrong year. I don't know.
2011 was the year Rango won. Anyways, it is A Cat in Paris.
Oh, that's right.
A Cat in Paris, yes. This was directed by Jean-Luc Felicioli and Alain Gagnol. And it's actually a really cool story. It is the story of this cat that's in Paris. No, so this cat is by day, this cat is belongs to a little girl, and at night she always escapes and goes off and is helps a burglar, a thief, work his way around Paris and steal things. And the little girl, you find out, has had some tragedy in her life, and her mother is a police officer, like the head of the police force, and they're trying to find this bad guy. And there's a bunch of circumstances where the bad guys end up kidnapping the girl, and with the help of the thief, which was recruited by the cat, they try to get the girl back. This is a very creative movie. It's a great watch. I watched it with my kids, and all they could talk about for the next couple days is how they wanted to watch the cat movie again. And so we've watched it several times since. It's really cool animation, and it's hand drawn. I'm pretty sure it's hand drawn. It definitely looks it, and it's very like flat, but also has the depth of the city. And Paris definitely plays a very definite role in the final act. The climax of the movie takes place at Notre Dame. It's a great movie. I watched it dubbed into English because I watched it with my kids, so we kind of had to dub it into English. But that really didn't take anything away from it either. It's got some cool twists and turns, and it's only 1 hour and 10 minutes, so it's a really, really quick watch too, which was good for watching with my kids. It's a solid 3-star, borderline 3.5-star movie. I really enjoyed this one. Creative movie, like a fun animated crime thriller that kids can get into. So, and it all revolves around a cat, and the cat's pretty awesome, I gotta say. And the thugs of the main bad guy are like your stereotypical just stupid thugs, which is a lot of fun too. But yeah, Cat in Paris, 3 stars.
Yeah, I remember liking that one too. And I guess it's okay to dub something where the main characters are like not human. So
yeah. Well, the cat never talks though. The cat never says anything, so but it works. It works. I think animated is like the one-time dubbing works, because the mouth isn't going to perfectly fit what they're saying anyways.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few like anime stuff dubbed, and it's the same experience.
Yeah. Have you seen that one, Zach?
I have not, nor have I heard of it, but it sounds very interesting, and it sounds like if Disney ever tried to make a movie called A Cat in Paris, it would crash and burn compared to what you described.
They made a movie about a rat in Paris, but it wasn't.
That's true. That's maybe what I was thinking of.
Got him.
Got him. All right. Okay, Todd, take us into the cager.
Okay, my Cager review, the 32nd edition, comes from 2008, directed by the Pang brothers, Danny and Oxide Chun Pang, and that is Bangkok Dangerous.
Ah!
The remake of their 2000 movie, which I haven't even seen.
Potentially the best Nicolas Cage title.
Yeah, I mean, it's a remake. I wanted to watch the original, but I didn't get to it. But yeah, it is an awesome title. And it is also the 4th time, I counted, that I've seen him play a character that is simply named Joe. And Joe is an assassin, and he is a really highly skilled assassin. And he's on what he says is going to be his last job in Bangkok. But he violates one of his own rules, which is he makes a connection with one of the people there, which is a helper that he finds that he would normally just off after the job is over. And he also kind of falls for this like deaf mute girl. And what complicates things is that his targets kind of figure out what's going on because he leaves like his he leaves people that know something, and he becomes the hunted because he's really sloppy. And apparently the original has the assassin character as the deaf mute, and I really tried to picture what that would look like with Nicolas Cage, and it was really entertaining to think about. But it would have been fascinating and absolutely unmarketable at the same time. So I get why they had to change it. The movie is really obsessed with like style and aura. It kind of feels like a Wong Kar-wai movie, or someone who like made a lot of like video or music video movies or music videos before they went into movies. And I'm not familiar with the Pang brothers' other work, but I'd be interested to check it out. Joe is like a conflicted, cold-blooded killer. He has a lot of narration where he's like explaining his hesitancies and why he does things and how he's like numb to the things that he does. It's a little bit of like the house that Jack built in there. But the problem is that the movie is like really slow building up to the actual action, and it's kind of boring. The other characters aren't really all that interesting, and I almost wish that they would have been speaking in Thai instead of like struggling their way through English, because I bet the original was like awesome and a lot fresher, because the characters would have been a lot more adapted to their environment. But this movie, it kind of becomes kind of conventional, and it makes like the Bangkok underworld kind of like this boring, like criminal underworld, like Tokyo kind of feeling thing. I mean, Bangkok is such a vibrant like party city, and it takes like all of that out of it. It becomes like this sort of lame ripoff between like The Professional and Lay Samurai, which isn't as interesting as just like watching Nicolas Cage like kill some assholes, because I mean there's a lot of that in there too. And it ends on like a downer note, which is odd, because that makes it like completely not, I mean, there's no chance that there would ever be a sequel. But if it was made like 5 years later, I guarantee it would have like spawned like several really bad sequels and like a whole like, and spin-offs and stuff like that. I can't say I liked the movie, and I can't say I hated it, but it does like a lot of things that try to push you away, which it's a really bizarre movie to watch. Which, I mean, I guess I just have to give it 2 stars and put it number 75 on the Cager between Kiss of Death and Trapped in Paradise. And those kind of together describe this movie.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome. I mean, I've always wanted to see that one simply for the title and the hair. Like those two together.
Oh yeah, it is totally like peak bad Nicolas Cage era hair. Like it's like Memphis Reigns with bad hair. That is essentially what Joe, the 4th Joe, that is like.
Does Joe talk Thai? Like Jack talks Thai?
Oh, he talks a little Thai, but
Jack talked Thai very well.
Yeah, Jack talked Thai.
Yeah.
Oh no, Jack can talk Thai. Yes.
I like it. So we've got the French animated movie, the German movie from the 70s, and Bangkok Dangerous. We are really expanding out. Getting quite international and eclectic in our taste.
Well, now let's get into our featured review, where we're going to talk about Cowboys in Philadelphia. just bring it all full circle here. So yeah, so our featured review. I mean, we had a choice. We could have talked about the movie everybody's talking about this weekend, and that is Kong versus Godzilla. Or is it Godzilla versus Kong? I honestly don't remember which way the title goes, but it doesn't really matter.
think it's HBO Max versus the world, but okay.
Pretty much. But we opted for the Netflix release this week, which is a smaller time movie, but looked a little more interesting, and that is Concrete Cowboy. So I'm going to start talking about this one. Concrete Cowboy is written and directed by Ricky Staub, who is doing his writing and directing debut in this. And it stars Idris Elba and Caleb McLaughlin, who is one of the Stranger Things kids. And Caleb McLaughlin plays Cole, a kid who is constantly getting in trouble, living in Detroit with his mom. And to try and straighten him out, his mom decides that he is going to go and stay with his dad in Philadelphia for the summer. And his dad is Idris Elba, who plays Harp. And we soon find out that his dad is a part of an urban cowboy group in Philadelphia. And this cowboy group is kind of used to help get kids off the streets and help kind of get kids motivated into making something out of their lives. And we find out at the end of the movie that some of the characters were played by actual members of this Philadelphia cowboy group, which was really cool to see because it actually is a real, true thing. We get some side characters in there, like an old childhood friend, Smush, played by Jarrell Jerome from Moonlight. You also have Method Man playing a former member of the cowboy group that is now a police officer that is always kind of looking out for the group as they go along. This movie it's fairly predictable in where it's going. It's pretty formulaic. However, at the same time, it tells the story very well. I really enjoyed watching Cole and seeing his kind of arc and where he goes and what's happening with him. Idris Elba shows that he can really be anything and he can act his way out of a paper bag because he's just awesome. And he totally just dives into this role and you totally can see him just being this guy. I'm giving it 3 stars. And the only reason I'm not going higher is because it is a little predictable. And it's kind of by the books, but if you're looking for like a self-discovery coming of age story, this is a great one to look for and to look out for. Easy to find on Netflix. So 3 stars from me. That's what I'm going for Concrete Cowboy. Let's go to Zach next.
Okay, so this movie is I thought of 3 movies watching this movie, maybe 4. I feel like this movie is a combination of The Rider, although it's actually more The Mustang, which is the ripoff of the Rider. So this is a ripoff of a ripoff. The whole like horse therapy thing, right? You definitely have some boys in the hood in there, right? You got the dynamic between this kind of distant father who's very much against a life of crime in this urban area and the son who's a little disconnected. And then you got a Bronx Tale. Oh, who's he going to side with? Which male role model is he going to go with? Is he going to go with the father? Is he going to go down the straight path? Or is he going to go with this cousin, the Smush character, Jarrell Jerome, and lead this life of crime? This movie, you understated how predictable this movie is, Terry. Every single moment of this movie felt like it was scripted. It was there was absolutely nothing unique or surprising about it, which is particularly disappointing because, we don't have a lot of cinematic history with black cowboys. Okay, when you think a black actor on a horse, you think Cleavon Little, right? And that's pretty limited. So I was really looking forward to the idea of more black representation in the kind of mythic Western genre on horses. And this movie does have a mostly black cast, and Idris Elba is the best thing about this movie. He is amazing in it. Okay, I don't know if I'd say amazing, but he has one monologue in this movie that is really, really, really good, and where it's the best moment in the movie. It's where he talks about where his son's name derives. But even if you watch that scene, there's like not a really great payoff to it because he basically says at the end of that scene, this is how you got your name. And the person you're named for also didn't really have a relationship with his dad. And then the scene ends. Like, what? What is that supposed to be saying? Like, okay, they're just always going to be distant. I really thought that the filmmaking aspects of this movie were super gimmicky. I've been seeing this in a lot of Netflix movies, but the slow-mos, let's get rid of those, okay? There's like 10 times in this movie with the slow-mos for dramatic effect. I'm really tired of the chases in 60 FPS. I'm also tired of the scene when a climactic shootout happens and then the director opts to do those quick dip to black transitions, like interrupting the footage. Come on, I've seen it a million times. This movie has a really unique, specific story that has to be grounded in reality, because otherwise it wouldn't seem believable that horses are just kind of free to roam in this area of North Philadelphia. I had a hard time sympathizing with the idea that these horses are really getting cared for. Like, you got the one horse who's living in the house who's pretty upset. And there's one time when he even runs away. There's another horse who we're told is dead and decaying outside. The horses don't look that great. All I'm saying. So that makes me sympathize a little less with the characters, especially with the whole obligatory subplot of the police are coming in and they're going to take the horses away. You got this heist scene at the end, which is just ridiculous, totally predictable. You have the Smush character, the cousin, talk about his dreams. I think we know what's going to happen when he talks about his dreams, right? I feel like that's screenwriting 101. The best part of this movie, besides the Idris Elba speech, is the end credits. I can't think of a movie where the end credits are actually better than the movie, but I love the idea that this was a real story, and kind of like the Mustang, the Matthias Schoenaerts movie, which this movie is very similar to. I don't know why they had to infuse the whole. There didn't need to be this like hyperkinetic, sensationalized story about gang violence, right? All we needed was this documentary look at this really unique, almost family vibe of these people in this neighborhood. Why not make a documentary? You already have the non-professional actors there. It kind of makes me think what Chloe Zhao would have done with this movie, someone who's also made movies about horses and non-professional actors. So this movie's a pretty big disappointment. I like Caleb McLaughlin on Stranger Things. I think he's talented. This isn't really the right... he's not given a whole lot to deal with. I'm giving it a generous 2 stars, mostly because it's based on a true story. And I feel like hopefully maybe they can have a documentary on the Criterion extra features of this movie about the real people and what they really do.
All right. So 3 stars from me, 2 stars from Zach. Todd, are you in the middle?
I'm almost exactly with Zach. He actually hit on like so many of the exact same points that I was going to say. But okay. Overall, like, okay, I like that the It and the Stranger Things guys are like actually becoming big deals and get their own projects. But Caleb McLaughlin looks so much like a young Donald Glover. I kind of thought it was at one point. Like, there was this movie made like 20 years ago. But I don't know. The movie has like sort of a quiet tone, and you're supposed to feel like you're an outsider, like you are Cole, getting drawn into this world. But I don't think it really gets there or really gets anywhere. I was on the same page with the Mustang, which, I mean, using horses as rehabilitation and all that. I thought that movie's way better at doing that. That was actually one of my favorite movies of that year. This one does not compare to that, but it's a really similar story. But once things calm down, it gets a little bit better. The first like half hour, I think, are kind of a slog. It is really predictable, like getting to know the rules, the tough love, warming up to the place, feeling like nobody cares about you, blah, blah, blah. And I like that it's a section of society that you don't really see represented ever in movies, but that's probably because there isn't an interesting movie to make about it. I really was right with Zach. I actually wrote down, I thought that it should have been a 20-minute documentary short, because I think there is an interesting story to tell, just not in movie form. And I don't care about Cole. I mean, it's a run-of-the-mill coming-of-age story. Everything's a metaphor. Everything's over-dramatized. Yeah. Oh, this juvenile delinquent now has to shovel some shit. I feel so bad. No, I really don't care. Like, I mean, it's just like this, and then it becomes this like over-the-top kid in crime movie. I don't know. It's over-directed and melodramatic in the wrong spots, and I wish I really thought of No Man Land too, because I wanted to just like hang out with the other characters and hear like their stories and hear like how they passed the time. Because honestly, that's all I wanted to do when watching this movie was just like make the time pass, because it was kind of boring. And I really give it 2 stars as well.
Yeah, I will say I did want to spend more time with the guy in the wheelchair that looked like Lakeith Stanfield.
Paris.
Yeah, because I had to make sure that wasn't Lakeith Stanfield for after a little while.
It was totally the role that he would have played. I thought that too. He even had the same like goatee.
I know, he looked just like him. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just got engaged by the story a little more than you guys did, but I see a lot of the stuff you guys are saying, and like I said, that was one of the things I had against it. Is it was predictable, it was very formulaic, but I thought the story was cool, and honestly, Zach said the best part was the closing credits. I think that added to it a lot too, and just to know that this is a real setting. It's one of those where if it's not real, you would never believe it. That there's this group in the projects of Philadelphia that keeps horses. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
But,
honestly, that's the best thing this movie's got going for it, because Paris is an interesting character, right? Like, listening to his monologue about his past, I've heard that same monologue about 1,000 times in movies, right? And I love how everybody just pauses. That I think the Issa character pauses what she's doing. Everybody pauses. Oh, we got to pay attention to his monologue here. This is his best supporting actor Oscar moment. But watching the end credits makes me think, well, maybe that actually happened. So I can't totally discount that. And I can't fault the movie for being, like you said, Terry, illogical, because this thing actually exists. I mean, have there been moments when there's the horse running free on a baseball field and they have to lock arms like that? Like, maybe that has actually happened. But what has not happened is a scene where a character gets a brand new pair of shoes and the director does a close-up of it, and we know within the next 5 minutes those shoes are going to have horse shit all over them. I mean, it's little stuff like that that makes me feel like a director like Chloe Zhao, but not a first-time director like this guy. Someone who has more patience and more nuance with the story, to bring it, make it more relatable instead of this stupid Hollywood gimmick stuff. But you know what? Maybe it also wasn't the director. Maybe Netflix insisted on making it this way. We don't know the full story behind it, but we do know that there is an interesting story here to tell. This just, as Todd said, wasn't the right medium to tell it.
yeah, this guy, Ricky Staub, has one of the more impressively short IMDb pages from someone who helmed a film starring a big Hollywood star like Idris Elba. His only other directing credit is a short that he made 3 years ago that he also wrote, called The Cage. And then he was a production assistant for 4 things, and he wrote 2 other shorts. That's literally his entire IMDb page. Oh, I guess he acted in 2 shorts and then a movie as a bartender a decade ago. I mean, this guy literally came out of nowhere and now has a feature film with Idris Elba. So, I mean, you got to give him some credit for coming up with this out of nowhere, and first time writer, first time director. But yeah,
shows
it could have been better, but I still think it's engaging enough for me to give it 3 stars.
And I also think if anybody is thinking about a black man on a horse, I think everybody thinks about Django Unchained. I don't think
that's
the
a good
first
point.
thing is Blazing Saddles. No.
Okay. Well, yeah. I was also going to say, I was watching this movie also and thinking about Nobody, the movie we disagreed on last week. Idris Elba should have been the Bob Odenkirk role in that movie. I would have given that movie a thumbs up. I was waiting in this movie. Well, I would have liked it more. Idris Elba has a great look in this movie. He should always wear a cowboy hat. I wanted him to beat people up. I wanted him to get on a Philadelphia city bus and just beat the shit out of everybody.
And be James Bond, which...
Yeah, well, okay, sure. I mean, that's the underlying message, I guess. But I want him to beat people up in this movie. I was waiting for the confrontation with Smush. It didn't happen.
This movie is produced by Lee Daniels, and that's probably why it got made.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. But I could see Lee Daniels wanting to get, publicize this section of society too. Anyways, all right. Well, that is Concrete Cowboy. I forgot to show this at the beginning, so there it is. Concrete Cowboy. I'm giving it 3 stars. Todd and Zach are giving it 2 stars.
This should be a Twitter question. When you think black man on a horse, do you think Cleavon Little or Jamie Foxx or someone else? Maybe Morgan Freeman in Unforgiven.
Does he ever get on a horse in that?
I honestly do not know.
I don't think he does. All right, maybe I'll throw that out there. We'll throw that out there.
I admire the movie for wanting to, bridge out from just those, those images.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is Concrete Cowboy. Available on Netflix. It was its new release. If you hadn't heard, Netflix is releasing a brand new Netflix original every week this year for the entire 2021 year. So you'll
more
find
like 2 or
something.
3 every week.
Yeah, well, it's like one major like English movie, and then they've got like 3 foreign films that come out every week too. So as well as all of their TV shows and everything, they just have a ton of content. Okay, cool. Well, let's move on. It is now time to get into power rankings. There it is. Look at that. Power rankings.
That's new.
That is new. Thank Adam for that one too. Okay. So last time, Zach won our game of guessing Adam's list. So Zach got to pick a category. So tell us what we're doing.
All right. Well, we've had this year at this year's Oscars, we have a few performances that are getting some nominations by older actors. So we've been on this podcast. We've talked about how great Anthony Hopkins was in The Father. We mentioned Yoo Jun-yoon in Minari, and at least Terry and I liked Glenn Close in Hillbilly Elegy. So I thought, why not talk about some great performances by older actors? So this week's power ranking is best performances by actors age 70 or older. And then to make things more interesting, we are going to do one per decade.
Yeah, that one per decade part made this so much harder because you realize that you go back 20, 30 years, barely anybody over 70 was in a movie. I realized that, or at least in movies I've seen. So that made this list insanely hard.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood is notorious for casting younger people. Even I looked up a lot of roles that I thought were, older people, and they were played by people under the age of 70. How about none other than, the mother of Jim Lovell, Blanche Lovell, played by Ron Howard's mother, Jean Howard. She was only like 65. She looks 165 in that movie. That movie should have won for makeup just for that scene alone. But we are going.
Yeah, but like Catherine Scorsese is over 70 and like in Goodfellas. I mean, like that. I mean, I don't know. It's. I mean, you can pick out some that are bad like that, but I mean, most of the time they have old people.
There were some that I was with Zach that I was like that's got to be over 70. Nope. So I found a whole bunch like 67, 68-year-old performances that I loved. But
originally I was going to say 80 or over, but that would have been impossible.
That would have made this list a lot easier.
Yeah, because there's only like 5 roles ever played by 80-year-olds. But okay.
Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, you can't just take like the last like 10 Christopher Plummer movies or something.
Yeah, and Max von Sydow, sure.
And Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was the one per decade that made this tough. Okay, well, let's get into this. With our number 5, Todd, you're going first. So, what is your number 5?
Yeah, okay. So this list was hard because I had a bunch from like the last like 15 years or so. So I had to branch out a little bit. My number 5 is Ossie Davis in Do the Right Thing. He was 72 in that movie because DeMare is one of my favorite characters in that movie, and him, like him going and like bitching out the Koreans for not having the right kind of beer, and his back and forth with Ruby Dee, and it's just pure gold. And his part's pretty small, but it highlights a charisma that actors that age don't necessarily always get to show on screen, and it's such a big dynamic cast, and he is honestly one of my like 2 or 3 favorite characters in that movie. He makes it different. So Ossie Davis and Do the Right Thing, representing the 1980s. That's my number 5.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that role, but that's awesome. That means though that he was really old for a long time. I wouldn't have thought he was even 70 in that movie.
Really? That was one of the first things I thought of. I was like, him and Ruby Dee, I know they're old, and then I looked up, I was like, yep, there you go.
I mean, Ruby Dee was one of those Oscar nominees who was like 85 years old when she got nominated. Yeah. So that must mean she was quite a bit younger than Ossie Davis. But
well, no, I mean, Ossie Davis was 72. So if she was like 85 in 2020
years later. Well,
yeah,
okay.
She would have been in her mid to late 60s. Yeah. I don't know.
Similar range.
Yeah.
All right. I will go next. My number 5 is my submission from the 70s. And honestly, it's like the only decent one that I could find from the 70s, and I kind of had to cheat a little bit to make it happen. So we are going with he was 72 in 1979. We're going with Burgess Meredith as Mick from Rocky 2. Because he was 69 in Rocky, but he was 72 when Rocky 2 was made. But it's the same character, and he's amazing in the first 3 Rocky movies. The old grizzled coach of Rocky Balboa going through the ropes. I mean, what's not to like about Mick? He's the best. So and Burgess Meredith is amazing, and he's great in that role, and so I had to go with that one. So Burgess Meredith. But in Rocky 2, because in Rocky 2 he was over 70.
He does have a lot of great scenes in Rocky 2. But I mean, so this means that you didn't choose something from the 2020s. You didn't choose something from last year.
I did not choose something from last year. No.
Okay. I thought there were some options, but okay.
Oh, I guess I could have, but no, I did not.
Okay.
You know, Burgess Meredith was a big stick man.
Yes, we know.
Yeah, I mean, he originated. He was one of the founding. He was like the Charles Atlas of the older stickman generation, the madmen of stickmen, that era.
All right, Zach, number 5.
I did choose something from 2020 as my number 5. It was actually one of the rare old person performances that did not get Oscar attention, although I brought it up on the podcast maybe once or twice, and that is Brian Dennehy in Driveways. Brian Dennehy, the late Brian Dennehy. Also, I'm calling this a 2020 movie because that's when it was released. Brian Dennehy passed away not too long ago. Great kind of character actor, sort of like a tough guy. I think he play David Spade's father on Just Shoot Me. I feel like he was born to play a fireman. But in Driveways, it's sort of a different role. He is sort of like an old tough guy in the movie, but really it's actually a really sweet and tender performance that he also, by the way, with my list, I tried to go against going with everybody's grandparent or parent. Okay, that just gets like a little bit routine and ordinary. So Brian Dennehy is the kindly old neighbor to this mother and son, played by Hong Chow and Lucas J. And they in the movie they are cleaning out the mom's sister's the late mom's sister's house, or the mom's late sister's house. And over the course of the movie, these two characters develop a friendship with this elderly neighbor who it's not like he's going through dementia necessarily. He's not like Anthony Hopkins and The Father, but he is sort of declining, and there's a beautiful scene at the end of the movie where he talks sort of about the trajectory of his life, some of the regrets he has, and maybe the uncertainty that he feels in the future. It's a subtle performance that got overlooked by the Oscars, unfortunately, but it's really a treasure of a movie. It was my number 13 movie of last year, just missed my top 10, but it's a really sweet movie, quiet movie, and Brian Dennehy is superb in it. Check it out if you get a chance. Driveways. Not Sideways. Driveways.
Okay, it's a good movie. It's a really good performance, and you are wrong for having that on your list, because my number 4 comes from the 2020s, and it's a movie that is higher on your list, and it's a performance that's higher on your list, and that is Paul Raci in Sound of Metal, who was 71. And I mean, I thought this was going to be a thrice approved one, but apparently I'm the only one that has it on their list. I had no idea he was actually 70 plus until he got nominated. But he's so subtle, and it shows he has this like acting talent and emotion that I still can't figure out someone to recast. I mean, I know you guys said Ben Mendelsohn, but I still think Paul Raci's perfect because he actually is the hearing son of deaf parents, which makes him have this like perspective that brings more to that role and more relatability that makes the movie what it is. And you can see everything he's thinking just by the look on his face. It's a perfect performance, and if there's any justice in the world, he will actually win Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars. I mean, I can't believe you guys didn't have that on. That's really upsetting.
I didn't know he was 72.
Yeah, that
was not obvious to me.
I know, but that was like a thing. Like when he got nominated, it's like, wow, he's like, I mean,
I didn't hear that. Well, obviously, yeah. I mean, I don't want to take off Brian Dennehy because I think he's really good. But I didn't think of him as 72. He's like, he has a lot of life and a lot of zest. He moves around a lot in the movie.
It's an amazing performance.
Yeah,
amazing, great over 70 performance as well.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even consider last year at all. I don't know why, but I was just like, I'm not gonna.
Last year just shouldn't count. Let's just get rid of it. It never happened.
And Uncut Gems inside way or in.
But yeah, if I had realized that Paul Raci would definitely be on my list, and possibly like, yeah, potentially like number 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, number 4 on my list is my submission from the 90s, and I have a feeling everyone's gonna like this this call here. We're going with a movie from 1992. This actor was 73 years old when he played Joe Cabot in Reservoir Dogs. It is Lawrence Tierney. It is a great performance by the leader of the gang that's pulling off this heist, who names all of the guys and tells Mr. Pink to tip. Normally I don't tip, but for you I'll tip. It's a great performance, and even possibly better than the performance is the legend of the off the screen, behind the scenes stories of what went on between Lawrence Tierney and Quentin Tarantino. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go look up Reservoir Dogs, Lawrence Tierney, Quentin Tarantino, and you'll find some great stuff. I think there's some behind the scenes stuff on like some of the DVDs and such, but he's like the perfect grizzled old guy to be running this group, and yeah, it's just a ridiculous performance, and it's awesome and a great movie. So Lawrence Tierney, Reservoir Dogs is my number 4.
I mean, the man walked through a wall.
Walked through a wall at 73.
Yeah, apparently he also got into some real bad shenanigans on the set of Seinfeld because he played Julia Louis-Dreyfus's father on that show too. They wanted him to come back as a recurring role, but he kind of did the same thing on that set that he did on Reservoir Dogs, and sadly it never happened. Apparently at one point he held a knife up to Jerry Seinfeld.
Gosh. Ay. All right, Zach, number 4.
All right, my number 4, I'm going to the 2010s. You know it. You love it. I'm going Shirley MacLaine and Bernie. And you know what? I've talked ad nauseum about Bernie. I didn't want to bring it up. I feel like maybe we need to make a caveat for my lists where I'm not allowed to bring Bernie up along with Uncut Gems and Fargo, but I couldn't resist, okay? Shirley MacLaine is awesome in this movie. This is the role that she was born to play. And she's not anybody's mother or grandmother. She's not this sweet, kindly old lady. She is like a mean old lady. Like, we could do a power rankings of the best mean old ladies ever in movies. She would be like number 1 or maybe 1A with Danny DeVito's mom and Throw Mama from the Train, or Billy Chris. I can't remember who it was, but she's like so mean in that movie, and she like, you know, she gets into Jack Black's head and she makes you really kind of want to strangle her and kill her. And it's a really high war performance because that's kind of the way Shirley MacLaine is in real life, if you've ever seen an interview with her. And you know, her best performance is still Terms of Endearment, but the lady knows how to act. She can bring it. She is aware of the kind of persona she has, and it's a tricky role to play because, again, you want to feel bad for an old lady. You want to kill the old lady. And I can't think of many other women that could really bring that across in as powerful a way as Shirley MacLaine in any movie, but in particular, Bernie. I'm sorry. I think
she was your number 1 douchebag of the decade, if you remember.
Exactly. I mean, that it really takes some skill to be. I believe she was actually over 80 when that movie. I think she was 80 years old when she made it. So it's an impressive feat. I can't think of very many 70-plus women who were villains in movies, period. But she pulled it off like the champ. Truly the Eric Roberts of elderly women.
Well, Helen Mirren just got cast as like a Marvel villain, didn't she? Or something. She got cast as a villain in something. Maybe it was a DC movie. I don't know.
That's interesting.
I have to look what that was. Okay.
All right. Look it up after you give us your number 3.
My number 3 comes from the 2010s. She was 72 years old. I reviewed it on the podcast at one point. It is Blythe Danner in I'll See You in My Dreams, which is a movie that I really loved. And it's a character. She's so full of life, and she somehow is like convincing as being in this love triangle with Martin Starr and Sam Elliott. And I would have never guessed she was over 70 because she still has it. For me, she's still Dina in Meet the Parents, but she still has that same magnetism in 2015 or whatever this was released that she did then. And she was also my favorite part of Prince of Tides. But this is like one of my favorite performances of the last decade. in one of the most underrated movies of the last decade. And Blythe Danner has always had that career that's gone without any recognition for whatever reason. And yeah, that's what I'm going with for my number 3. It was a tough choice out of all the 2010s movies, but that's what I landed on.
Yeah, that's a good one. She's like sexy in that movie. Like she's radiant, and I think she kind of looks great for 70 whatever. And she carries every scene in that movie. I can't think of any scene where she's not in it. And she's awesome. It is a really good movie. It's kind of a quirky movie that has some comic and dramatic elements, but it's never unbelievable because she's believable in that role. It's kind of perfect for her.
Yeah, and I would have never guessed she was over 70. I mean, she's the exact same she was in 2000. I mean, it's kind of incredible.
I mean, there's a scene where she gets high with a bunch of her old lady friends, and it kind of is believable. June Squibb, Rhea Perlman, it's kind of cool. And I remember she has like a singing career in that movie. Like, it's a really interesting movie. I don't remember liking it as much as you did, but now that I remember a lot of it, so maybe I did like it. I don't know. It certainly made an impact on me.
Maybe this is a movie I need to watch. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Oh, you'd love it's a Terry movie for sure. I mean,
I think Terry probably liked it more than I did. Even I think it was like close to my top 10 of that year, honestly.
Wow. All right. So moving on to my number 3. My number 3 is my submission from the 2000s. This movie came out in 2002, and it one of the performance is by a man who was 72 years old, and it was one of his final performances because he died that same year. It is one of my favorite like guilty pleasure movies that I never get to bring up that much. It is Richard Harris as Abe Faria in The Count of Monte Cristo.
Well, that was not the one I thought you were going with.
No, Count of Monte Cristo. I love this movie, and he is such a quirky old man who meets Edmond Dantes in prison by coming up through the floor of his prison cell, thinking he was digging a tunnel to the outside of the prison wall, and instead found himself in a different cell. And he said, "Okay, well, I guess I just have to dig the other way." And in his dying breath, as he dies in prison, reveals the treasure that allows Edmond Dantes to become the Count of Monte Cristo. He gives like the greatest performance of the movie and possibly one of his best performances. He steals the movie in just the short time he's there, as he is just this quirky priest who knows everything and teaches Edmund everything that he knows. I love it. I love this movie, and I mean, everyone else will probably say the best 2002 performance of Richard Harris was Harry Potter. But I gotta go The Count of Monte Cristo. I love that movie, and yeah, especially for someone in one of their final performances. Gotta go with it.
I thought you were going with like, when you said 2002, I thought when one of his final performances, I thought you were going with Paul Newman in Road to Perdition or something, but maybe he wasn't quite 70. I don't know.
Oh, he was. I looked him up.
Okay, no, Richard Harris in Count of Monte Cristo. That's what I'm going with. I love that movie.
I've never seen it, and I feel like you're going to assign it to me now that I mentioned that. So might as well just get on it.
Here's what I have to say about that movie. It is nothing like the book. I love the book. It is nothing like the book, but it is a great movie. So
I don't remember anything about it. I mean, I think I might have watched it once.
I mean, it's one of your movies, Terry. You bring this movie up like every 5 episodes. I mean,
it comes up every now and then.
It's like Bernie.
Yeah, exactly.
We may have to deep dive it next year when it's celebrating its 20th anniversary.
There we go.
Bernie's
2002 is going to have a lot. We might have to do a deep dive every week on 2002.
Yeah.
All right, Zach, number 3.
All right, my number 3 film comes from the 2000s, and it is a film that I actually just watched this summer. I think Todd's a fan of this movie. The movie is called Goodbye Solo by Ramin Bahrani, who's a director we really like, and the performer's name is Red West, and I believe he had a interesting background. I don't think he was a trained actor. I think he was I'm looking on his IMDb profile. He was a member of Elvis Presley's inner circle known as the Memphis Mafia. feel like there's a movie that should be made right there. But anyway, in Goodbye Solo, he plays a character named William. And Goodbye Solo is about this elderly man, played by Red West, who is at the end of his life, and he is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and he calls up a cab driver named Solo, who's played by Suleiman Sai Savane. And he basically gradually reveals to this taxi driver, who's this very friendly, kind, outgoing, I believe he's Ethiopian, I want to say. He's an African immigrant. But he gradually reveals to him that he plans to kill himself by jumping off this big mountain in North Carolina. And the movie is kind of like, it's basically just, two opposites attracting. Like, you have this Solo character who is so outgoing, so friendly, so funny, so spontaneous and full of life. And then you have this William character who's really dour and depressed, but also just kind of angry and bitter at the world. And it feels like this movie is going to turn into a Disney type uplifting inspirational story about how Solo is going to show William how great life is, and he's going to make William rethink his suicidal plans. But the movie is a lot more intelligent than that. It goes in directions that you don't expect, and it really is, though, at the core about this very tender relationship between these two men. Watching Goodbye Solo, Red West is not the most apparent actor in it, because there's a lot of, he doesn't speak a lot. He's very taciturn, very elderly and, senile. But a lot of his actions, a lot of his acting is just kind of reacting to Suleiman Sai Savine or Savane. And they just have a great dynamic. I would watch more movies with those two characters. They bond in ways that are unexpected, but seem really genuine and authentic and true. And when I thought old person performance that didn't get a lot of notoriety, Red West absolutely was one of the first actors I thought of. So I don't know what the guy did in his life. It seems maybe perhaps appropriate that he wasn't a trained actor, because again, there's just so much genuine about his performance in that movie. But he's really awesome in it. Great movie, worth checking out.
Cool. Yeah, I do like that movie a lot too. And yeah, recent Oscar nominee Ramin Barani, which is cool. He deserves it.
Great director. Yep.
All right.
Well, and I do want to add, when I hear the title Goodbye Solo, I always think of the episode of The Office that is Goodbye Toby. And I do have to say, part of the inspiration for this, so I do have to say, I was procrastinating. I didn't come up with a power ranking, so you guys were pestering me about it. And finally, I was just on my couch on Monday night, and what was on the episode of The Office where they talk about the old people and ageism, and he brings in Dunder, right? And he has the pictures of the old lady from Titanic. Can you remember, Terry? Old lady from Titanic. Oh. The guy in Big who's on the piano with Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
where's the beef lady? And Ben Kingsley. Anyway, I don't know. That has nothing to do with anything. But I thought, okay, well, let's talk about old actors, because that's a great episode.
Only Michael Scott.
Yep.
Only Michael Scott. What's more memorable, that episode or the diversity training?
Yeah, I don't. That's tough, but
diversity tomorrow, because today is almost over.
One of my favorite things about the episode, though, the senior episode, is Pam and Jim say, "Hey, didn't you already use Ben Kingsley before?" Oh yeah, you already used the picture from Big.
Oh yeah. All right, Todd, you need to watch The Office. Okay, Todd, number 2.
My number 2 is my 1970s submission. It was nominated for an Oscar in 1974 at age 78. Is Lee Strasberg in The Godfather Part 2. He's Lee Strasberg is a legendary acting coach, but and this is one of the very best acted movies of all time. But it's characters like Hyman Roth that make Part 2 so special, because he's fascinating. It's a smaller character. I feel like the other actors are just sitting there and they're like, okay, we'll just let him do his thing when he gives his big monologue. I feel like he never has a shirt on in the movie, but it doesn't really matter. He's his full acting talent is on full display. He's just like a king on his throne. He is the godfather of that movie. And Lee Strasberg in The Godfather Part 2. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't remember enough of that movie. It's been too long since I've seen it to really to have really picked him.
Me neither. I've always thought that was a really curious Oscar nomination. I don't doubt that he's really good in the movie because he's like the guru of acting, but
you just haven't seen the movie enough.
I mean, it is 3.5 hours. In all fairness, there's a lot of other people in it too.
I know. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great supporting characters. I was honestly going to go with Michael Gazzo, but he apparently he wasn't 70 yet. He looked more than Lee Strasberg, but okay.
All right. Well, number 2 on my list is a fairly probably predictable Terry pick, but I don't really care because I think it deserves to be on the list. This is my submission from the 80s. It is the one submission on my list that is an Oscar-winning role. It is, at the age of 80, Jessica Tandy in Driving Miss Daisy. Now, say what you want about the movie. I know this isn't necessarily everyone's favorite Oscar-winning Best Picture movie, but I really like it, and her performance is amazing, especially as, I mean, it covers a lot, like, 50 years throughout the course of this movie, too, and for something like that to be done with someone in their 80s is impressive, and she's got so much life to her, and is able to portray the nuances of this kind of complex character very, very well. And I always thought she just gave an amazing performance in this and totally deserved her Oscar for it. So yeah, number 2 on my list, Jessica Tandy, Driving Miss Daisy.
Yeah, I was looking at her for that, or like Fried Green Tomatoes or something. Or like her co-starring Driving Miss Daisy in some of his recent stuff, but yeah.
Driving Miss Daisy is not a bad movie. I mean, this is probably not the best venue to talk about it. It's just a movie that shouldn't have won Best Picture, but it's actually
there's that, yeah.
But it's actually like a pretty interesting movie that I think has more subtlety and nuance than people realize to it, and she is really good in that movie. It just it gets kind of misconstrued in some ways, but it shouldn't have won Best Picture. But it's a solid movie with a good lead performance.
Yeah, I think I have it number 2 of the best. I have it number 2 of the year, and it's number 2 of the Best Picture nominees. I've got Dead Poets Society over it.
Okay, well then for you, it's not a problem that it's that high. For me, it's like number maybe 15 of that year. Well, maybe not that low. I don't know, but it's not in my top 5.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. Zach, number 2.
Okay, for my number 2, we're going back to the 1960s. We're going to France, and the film is called The Two of Us, directed by Claude Berry. Claude Berry later directed Jean de Florette and Man of the Spring, along with My Father's Castle and My Mother's Glory. And The Two of Us stars the legendary...
What's the title of the movie nominated for an Oscar this year?
What's that?
Foreign film?
Is it?
The Two of Us, yeah.
Yeah, I think there is another film called The Two of Us.
Oh, it's not. It was nominated for a Golden Globe, not the Oscar, but yeah.
Yeah, I was looking it up on IMDb, and it kept redirecting me to some 2019 movie that I'd never heard of. But the 1960s Two of Us, from 1967, stars a French actor named Michel Simon. And I have the Criterion DVD here, and I want you to take a look at Michel Simon. And, I agreed with Terry's pick of Lawrence Tierney, but if you're talking the best look for an old guy, I mean, it really has to be this guy right here. I mean, isn't that an extraordinary face? Like, he
looks like Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka.
Yeah. I mean, this is how I want to look when I'm this age. Like, this is just an amazing look. And the only way that I can really compare his performance in this movie, he's like, did you ever watch those? Well, obviously, you watch Chris Farley on YouTube, right? I was more thinking like Chris Farley on the Letterman show when he would do those crazy entrances. Like, this guy doesn't look like he's very mobile, but he does some crazy shit in this movie. Like, he runs around a lot. He like throws apples in the air. He's like, he's a great cook. He's also an anti-Semite who likes the Nazis. And over the course of the movie, he forms a relationship with this young boy who is Jewish during World War II. This movie could not be made today for several reasons. I mean, obviously, you listen to the plot, it sounds like it's a movie that is trying to kind of have a resurrection arc for the for the Michelle Simon character, and it does a little bit. There's also this kind of odd undercurrent in the movie where the boy has to hide being naked around these people because they will tell he's circumcised. Obviously, that's not something that could ever fly in 2021, but it is a really interesting movie about this guy who's super, super prejudiced. He's the grandpa type. He smokes a pipe, talks about how horrible the Jews are. And the movie kind of has this subversive thing where, he talks about how, oh, well, you don't look like a Jew because, your nose is not like a Jew and your eyes aren't like a Jew. And of course, he's just, reinforcing how stupid stereotypes and prejudices are. It's a really sweet movie. It's definitely like a kind of grandkid movie with this backdrop of World War II. It's not really dark in a lot of ways. It's actually kind of light and inspirational and sweet. And the guy's really amazing. He's like mobile, runs around a lot. He plays with the kid a lot. And while he's not spouting off about Jews, but it's funny. And I don't know. I've always been a fan of this movie, and one of the better French movies from the 1960s. Definitely more in the kind of mainstream French canon by that point. Claude Berry made movies that were usually set in the French countryside. This is yet another one of them, and he's just a great old guy. He's an old guy who weighs like 230 pounds, but he's light on his feet. It's pretty impressive. So I don't know what else this guy did. I was reading Ebert's review of it. It seems like he was very big in older roles, like Lawrence Tierney. Maybe he was the Lawrence Tierney of France. This is a good Criterion, by the way. Very rare and out of print. I spent a lot of money on this one, so maybe I'll give it a full-length review sometime.
There we go.
I think you just did.
Okay. Some good extra features on this. It's got everything. They didn't come out with a Blu-ray, though, sadly, because now it's out of print. But maybe it will come back.
All right. Todd, number one.
My number one comes from the 2000s, and it's an actor. He's one of my favorites. He basically looked the exact same, like basically 50 to 70 from like 1980 until Welcome to Mooseport. And that is Gene Hackman in The Royal Tenenbaums. And it's about the least likely Wes Anderson actor you could possibly think of, but you could tell he's having a blast playing this movie. He's like funny and he's mean. He's kind of despicable, but of course the movie still has heart because it's a Wes Anderson movie. But I could have seen it being like a Bill Murray movie or something, but casting a guy like Gene Hackman who can carry the movie, it's like having Ray Fiennes at Grand Budapest Hotel. It takes it to a different level. And he's like, it's like one of like the 3 or 4 best performances of his career. And it's one of the weirder Oscar snubs the last 20 years or whatever, last couple decades, I guess I would say. And I don't know, I'm not even the biggest fan of the movie, but Hackman is amazing in it. And he's one of my favorite actors. And I mean, that's about all I got to say. It's a great performance. And I didn't even know he was 70 at that point because I could never tell.
Yeah, I mean, one recurring theme on our list so far has been old people who can run around. And like, there's some really fun scenes that he has with Ben Stiller's kids in that movie where they like run across the street and don't they like go on bumper cars or something like that. But the scene that I always remember that I think is just great acting from that movie is when he tells Angelica Houston, his ex-wife, that he's dying, and that is a lie, or is it? And she slaps him and she's so furious, but like his facial reactions to that scene are great. And he was one of the best, and this was kind of his swan song. More so than Welcome to Mooseport, okay? This is the way he should be remembered in the 2000s, the end of his career.
I still haven't seen The Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh. Wow.
I know. Wes Anderson is kind of a big... I mean, I've seen...
I was going to say
it's my favorite Wes Anderson film.
I've seen Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I've seen Grand Budapest Hotel. That's all the Wes Anderson I've seen.
Well, I mean, I saw Royal Tenenbaums when I was in the theater.
What? Both of you were talking. Ahead, I couldn't hear either of you.
I was saying you didn't see Moonrise Kingdom. I assumed you would.
Really?
Wow. Never saw Moonrise Kingdom, Isle for Dogs, Life Aquatic, Rushmore.
Wow. But Royal Tenenbaums is my favorite, and I saw it in the movie theater, and I thought, wow, this director's got style, and Gene Hackman's kicking ass in this movie. I loved it. Also, on the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, that was one of those where like the original DVD release was at Criterion, wasn't it? like several of Wes Anderson's movies.
Life Aquatic, they did that too. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, my number one is from the 2010s and was actually also a first release, was the Criterion. And it's actually, I'm going to go, it's a three-way tie because I really didn't want to pick. My three-way tie is Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci, all for The Irishman.
Nice.
And I think if you're going to have a tie, this is the tie to have, because you have these three legends of acting that all come together for one epic movie directed by Martin Scorsese. And when I say epic, I mean 3.5 hours long epic. And I think, let's see here, I think De Niro and Pesci were 76 and Pacino was 79 when this movie was made, which you would never know because they are all like on top of their game and producing some of the best work of their career. I wasn't the hugest fan of the movie. I thought it was very, very good. I didn't think it was a masterpiece that a lot of people thought it was, but the strength of the movie was definitely the acting that came from these three. The De Niro snub for the Oscar nomination was crazy, but yeah, when I started thinking about just great performances over 70, if I'm not going with, you know, Anthony Hopkins and The Father, which was the inspiration for the list, well, that and apparently Michael Scott. But I'm going with these three in The Irishman. And I think one of the things that made this hard is because if I had my way, I would have gone with like all five of my picks from the last like 15, 20 years. I think Todd said that earlier too. And that's because you have these incredible legends of acting from that hit their peak in like the 70s that that all started to that kept on putting out decent work in the last decade or so. So yeah, I had the opportunity. I went with it. Three-way tie for first. You can't blame me, right?
That one I will accept. Usually it's cheating, but I mean, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I if I had to pick one, I was going to talk about all three of them anyways. So I'm just going to cheat and go with it. All right, Zach, number one.
Well, the reason I was hesitant to do this list was because I thought number one would be so obvious that everyone would just be saying Merlot and we would just be talking about the same thing. I cannot believe that this performance hasn't even come up yet. I mean, I'm amazed.
Well, I did not include Anthony Hopkins. I mean, he would be number one.
I'm not talking about Anthony Hopkins. I'm talking about my performance from the 1980s, and that is the Academy Award-winning performance by Henry Fonda in On Golden Pond. How? I mean, you both love that movie more than I do. I mean, I
haven't seen On Golden Pond.
What? Well, okay, I know Todd loves it more than I do.
Todd loves it.
I'm a big fan of the movie too. It's a great movie, and I actually had a chance. I didn't rewatch the whole thing, but I watched like the first hour of it not too long ago. It holds up really well, and you know, we have these discussions about stage-bound movies that are based on plays and how they translate to the screen. Mark Rydell is not like a really well-known director, but he did a really great job in that movie. That movie never feels like a play. It feels really organic. Now, I said Henry Fonda, but I could just make it a tie and go Katharine Hepburn too. But I think what adds so much more poignancy to the Henry Fonda role is, of course, he was dying over the course of the production of the movie. He died months afterward. Jane Fonda accepted the Oscar on his behalf. I think he died maybe a few weeks after that. And I recently also watched Jane Fonda in 5 Acts, the documentary on HBO, which is a really great documentary. She talks a lot about her complicated relationship with Henry Fonda. And specifically, she talks about the scene where her character talks with Norman by the marina. And she says that, Henry Fonda never liked to improvise. Everything had to go perfectly right according to plan. But she wanted to improvise for one scene. And so there's one moment where she reaches out, it's a very tender moment. She reaches out her hand and touches his, I believe it's his like knee, and Henry Fonda breaks down and the camera immediately cuts away. And I feel like that just personifies the fact that this was a performance very much grounded in the reality of that actor's life, his complicated relationships with family. He had never met Katharine Hepburn prior to the making of that movie. But when your most iconic, most memorable performance in a long and storied career is your final one, that has to be noteworthy and mentioned on this list. So I know Todd's in agreement with me, but he's amazing in that movie, and it's a very well-deserved Oscar. No honorary award whatsoever, even though he had won the honorary award before that movie. So crazy.
Yeah, I didn't want to just go with too much Oscar-nominated stuff, and obviously, I only went with a couple, but yeah, that's obviously one of the top ones, and one of the first ones I thought of as well. Him and Katharina Hepburn, because yeah, that is a top 25 movie.
It's hard to choose between them, but I feel like Katharina Hepburn was over 70 for her entire career, so there's a lot of movies you could probably choose from. Yeah. But Henry Fonda, for him I think that's also...
She was younger.
She was a little younger, and I think his role is the trickier one, because you can also see that he's losing it a little bit, but he's still got this kind of like the character that I mentioned from Goodbye Solo. He's not a particularly likable guy. Like, he's kind of like senile and kind of miserly, but he's lovable too. And there's just a lot. There's so much grounded in reality about that performance. I think it's a really brave, daring performance, and it's a movie that has aged, I think, pretty well.
Could do a deep dive of it this year.
There we go. Maybe we should, but there's only like 5 characters. That's the problem. Who's the biggest stick man in that movie? Well, I guess the biggest stick man in that movie is pretty obviously the Dabney Coleman character, but I don't know about High Roller Big Tim Award. Maybe the trees by the lake. I don't know.
All right. Yeah, I need to watch that one. I know. Todd, you got any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I have a lot. Okay, so the 2010s, I had Joe Pesci in The Irishman, Burt Reynolds in The Last Movie Star, which was probably his best performance he ever gave at age 82, and he died right after it. Harry Dean Stanton in Lucky at age 90, Robert Redford in All Is Lost, Judi Dench in Skyfall, Emmanuel Riva and Jean-Louis Trintignant in Amour, and Michael Parks in Red State were all over 70. And then my 2000s ones, I had Frank Langella in Frost Nixon, which I thought Terry was going to be all over.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Rip Torn in the Ira Sachs movie 40 Shades of Blue, James Garner and Jenna Rollins in The Notebook, Clint Eastwood in $1 Million Baby. The only thing I wrote down from the 90s, I didn't even have one on my list, was Jason Robards in Magnolia. I thought the 90s was the cheapest one. The 80s, I had Peggy Ashcroft in Passage to India and Henry Fonda and Katharina Hepburn in On Golden Pond. And from the 60s, I had written down Ruth Gordon in Rosemary's Baby. So yeah, a lot of options. It was not an easy list to narrow down. So thanks, Zach.
Yeah. So for my honorable mentions, I didn't have a whole lot other ones written down. I really struggled to come up with some good names. But a couple, I had Harrison Ford in The Force Awakens for the 2010s. 2000s, I had Alan Arkin in Little Miss Sunshine. Those were a couple I had written down. But a couple of my favorite ones that went, you gotta be kidding me, they're not over 70, was Jack Nicholson was in The Departed at age 69. And then the other one that I thought for sure, did you know Spencer Tracy only died at age 67, even though he looked like he was 75 when he made Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? I thought for sure that was going to be one of them, but it wasn't.
That's a good one,
so,
yeah.
I was all over that. I'm like, oh yeah, Spencer Tracy's going to be on my list. What?
Yeah, I had 2 of those as well. Paul Newman in Nobody's Fool. I believe he was also 69. And then Jack Lemmon in Glengarry Glen Ross and Shortcuts. I mean, those are right before his 70th.
Yeah, I thought for sure he was over 70 in Glengarry. That was going to be on my list.
Yeah. I also had Max von Sydow in Minority Report, Jean Rochefort from Man on the Train. Did anyone say Bruce Dern in Nebraska? Did we mention that?
No.
Okay,
no.
That was on my list. Bob Barker in Happy Gilmore, Alan Alda in Marriage Story, James Gardner and Jenna Rollins in The Notebook, John Marriott in Dog Day Afternoon. He played Howard the guard. I know he only has like one scene in that movie, but it's a really good scene. You remember him, right, Todd? The old guard who has a heart attack, and Gloria Stewart in Titanic, Sheila Florence in A Woman's Tale, which is this really good Australian movie, and Dustin Hoffman in Barney's Version, where he plays Paul Giamatti's dad. And of course, Catherine Scorsese. I mean, this list really is in honor of her. It's sort of the elephant in the room, but
I thought for sure she was going to be on your list. I was when you
I think
started
it was a little
mentioning
too
things
obvious.
like her, I was like, oh, did Zach completely space that?
Yeah. Oh, I also forgot Ali Oscar Shabazi from A Separation. He plays the father, the elderly father in that movie, and he was also over the age of 90 when he made that.
Wow,
impressive. No lines in it, but all in the face.
All right. Well, now is the moment of truth. We are now predicting Adam's list. Winner gets to pick our next power rankings category. Todd, take your stab.
Okay, my number 5, I have Paul Raci in Sound of Metal. Number 4, Alan Arkin in Little Miss Sunshine. Number 3, Gloria Stewart in Titanic. Number 2, Morgan Freeman in The Dark Knight Rises. And number 1, Henry Travers in It's a Wonderful Life.
All right. So here's mine. Number 5, I have Imogene Coca in National Lampoon's Vacation, who plays
Nice.
it's the aunt, right? That's with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. Aunt Edna.
Yeah, Aunt Edna. That's Aunt Edna. Yeah. Number 4, Bruce Dern in Nebraska. Number 3, Gloria Stewart, Titanic. Number 2, Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino. And number 1, I have Henry Travers in It's a Wonderful Life.
Seriously? Okay. Well, you're probably gonna win. You have more likely options than I do.
Zach, what do you got?
All right, I went number 5, Catherine Scorsese in Goodfellas. Number 4, Morgan Freeman in Invictus. Number 3, Lawrence Tierney in Reservoir Dogs, although I realize now I have 2 90s films, but whatever. Number 2, Xu Zhen Zhao for The Farewell. And number 1, Henry Fonda for On Golden Pond.
Adam, mess this list up. Okay.
What? How did he mess it up?
All right. Okay, so he says this was harder than I originally thought. Dude, okay. Honorable mentions, which are better than half his list, are Judi Dench for Skyfall, Ed Asner for Up. That's a great call, by the way. And Max von Sydow in Minority Report. Okay, number 5, Gloria Stewart, Titanic for the 90s. Number 4, Henry Fonda on Golden Pond. Okay, good. Number 3, Joe Pesci, The Irishman. All right, we're still doing good. Number 2 is Anthony Hopkins for The Father. He was informed that this list was in honor of Anthony Hopkins in The Father, which usually means he's disqualified. And number 1 was the 69-year-old performance from Jack Nicholson in The Departed. So,
I got what? I got one of them.
I got one.
Yeah, I got one.
We all got one.
I got Gloria Stewart. I had her number 3, and she was number 5.
I had her number 3. She was number 5.
And then I had Henry Fonda, and he was number 4.
You had him number 1, right? Yeah.
But I also said Max von Sydow. My honorable mentions.
Well, yeah, but I had.
He said Judi Dench in his honorable mentions too.
And Joe Pesci.
Yeah, but Joe Pesci was on my list in my 3-way tie.
Well, yeah. Katharina, whatever. On Golden Pond was on my honorable mentions too. I don't know. I don't know. That's a weird call. Zach had it ranked number 1, but it wasn't his number 1. I didn't even know he had seen On Golden Pond.
Has he seen The Father?
Yes. He texted me right after he saw it and said he was completely devastated by it.
I would have put The Father on my list, but I didn't think he had seen it.
He saw it this week.
Tricky.
Adam's review of On Golden Pond is not on our website.
Oh!
Ooh,
we got
conspiracy theory. I don't know.
I don't know. Great call by Adam, though, on Ed Asner for Up. I mean, doing a voice performance like that, that's a good call.
Maybe he's going to be upset he didn't say Paul Raci, too. I know he is.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be really upset.
Maybe Adam can just come up with the power.
Well, or maybe he's not because he said Anthony Hopkins. He said Anthony Hopkins is greater than Paul Raci. Maybe.
No, but he has Sound of Metal higher on his list than he does The Father. But Adam Adam screwed it up by putting Nicholson on there, so he doesn't deserve to pick the power rankings. Maybe we should make Arlette pick the power rankings.
Let's do it.
Arlette has to pick our category.
Yeah.
Because Adam screwed up too much.
So who gets the point? Does nobody get a point?
Arlette gets the point.
I'm not putting another person on my list.
Do we all get a third of a point?
Oh, that's bad.
That is bad. That is bad. The Father is now Adam's number 3 of 2020, by the way.
So that's behind Sound of Metal.
True.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we'd have to debate about that. That's interesting.
All right. Well, should we figure out? Should we just say no points are awarded, and may God have mercy on our souls?
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good.
I thought this was a really good power rankings.
It was a great category.
Yeah. Therefore, I should get the point.
We had no overlap.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. And there was
Adam and Zach did.
Oh, yeah, a little bit with Henry Fonda, but
is that the should that be the tiebreaker? That they actually had overlap in their list?
Yeah,
well,
I predicted it.
I kind of did too with Joe Pesci.
But you didn't predict it though. I predicted it.
He was further off on his one that he got right though.
That's true.
Yeah, but no one was going to pick Jack Nicholson. This is just riveting entertainment right now.
All right. So
maybe we'll ask Adam what he thinks after he listens to it. Adam, who do you think should win? It's me.
Yeah,
right?
he'll pick who gets the point, but I don't know who's picking the category. Yeah.
Arlette picks the category.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued by that.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm down.
We'll go with that. For those who don't know, Arlette is Adam's wife. Okay. Well, that was a train wreck. Trivia time. And let's see here. Todd won trivia last time, so Zach and I had to watch something. Zach, why don't you go first and tell us what you watched?
Okay, I watched The Invisible Man, the last year version, not the older one, from 2020, directed by Lee Whannell, and starring everybody's favorite actress, Elizabeth Moss. This was in Adam's top 10, although, gosh, now I don't know if it even makes his top 10 after all these recent additions to his list. And Todd is a fan of the movie, too. Moss plays Cecilia, who at the beginning of the movie runs away from an abusive relationship. Her boyfriend is kind of this Elon Musk type, elusive tech genius in Silicon Valley, but who's also pathological and aggressive and mean. And so she runs away and she flees and stays at her friend's house, played by Aldous Hodge. And she finds out later that her boyfriend actually killed himself. But she is convinced that all is not what it seems, and that he has actually developed this crazy plot to be invisible and take revenge on her for leaving him. Elizabeth Moss is the best thing about this movie. She's great in everything she does. Unfortunately, the rest of the movie I don't think holds up particularly well. I really have two issues with the movie. One is that I wish that the movie had been more, how should I say, ambiguous about the character's subjectivity. There is never a doubt that Elizabeth Moss is right and everybody else is wrong. And so for the first hour of this movie, it does that kind of quasi-Hitchcock thing where, she's the only person who knows what's going on and everybody's like, oh, she's crazy. She couldn't be right. No, she's right. So it's just an idiot plot for the first hour of this movie. And it's like her just convincing people, no, this guy actually is coming back and this thing is really happening. And everyone's like, that couldn't be the case. I get pretty bored of that. I wish instead the movie had been more like, well, maybe she's crazy, but maybe she's not. I don't know. The movie's not called, Crazy Woman Tries to Convince Other People. It's called The Invisible Man for a reason. The other thing I didn't like about it was in the second half of the movie, this character, her boyfriend, played by Oliver Jackson Cohen, basically turns into a cyborg. And not only is he this millionaire Elon Musk tech genius who lives on the ocean side and is improbably handsome, looks like he could have been cast in 50 Shades of Grey, but he is also a killing machine. Maybe he was trained by Bob Odenkirk in Nobody. I don't know. Maybe he was a protege or something. But somehow he also is able to just kick ass and is really just this maniacal genius who cannot be defeated. So that was really improbable too. This movie also is really long, and it has this director was in love with this twist ending that occurs in the last 15 minutes that is really strained. And it's like, dude, just end your movie at the hour and a half point. We don't need the rest of this exposition. It's not very clever. It's not as clever as you think it is. Again, Elizabeth Moss, kind of like her performance in Shirley. Best thing about the movie, I appreciate that this movie was not starring Johnny Depp and it's not in the dark cinematic universe or whatever. And it actually does have a sort of thoughtful lens and perspective about relationships, and it is more grounded in reality, at least for the first part of the movie. But ultimately, I have to give it thumbs down because it doesn't. I don't think it takes a lot of risks, and it just kind of gets stupid as it goes along. So 2.5 stars, but not a terrible watch. And I don't know what Adam saw in it, but it's not a 4-star movie for me by any means.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't that long, but I don't. It's my number 60 of the year. I mean, I'm not in love with the movie either, but like, what I really loved about the movie was the design of the Invisible Man. I thought that alone should have gotten it nominated for Best Visual Effects. I thought it was like the level of like Terminator 2 kind of style of a villain that I mean, I loved. And yeah, obviously Elizabeth Moss is great, but. Yeah, I mean, I know Adam adored the movie, but I mean, I just thought it was a really entertaining movie for 2 hours. But okay.
And wasn't it shortlisted for visual effects?
Yeah. And it should have gotten all the way through, but.
And there's definitely like an Ex Machina vibe to it, and it does some creative things, and I like when the movie. I like movies where the character's trying to explain to everybody that I'm not crazy after all, but. It just gets a little redundant. It's like the movie needed to skip forward 3 beats in the screenplay to get to a point that was more compelling and interesting. So, I don't know. It needed a second draft or something like that, but not entirely terrible.
Okay.
Wow.
Could have been a lot worse.
I still have yet to see it.
On Golden Pond, you should see before The Invisible Man.
Probably. And the Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah, that too.
All right, just a little aside here. I have on the White Sox Angels game, and Shohei Ohtani is the starting pitcher and batting second, and the first pitch he saw in the bottom of the first, he hit a 450-foot home run. Just throwing that out there. And his first pitch of the game was 98 miles an hour. The guy's a freak. Okay, anyways. All right. Well, the movie I had to watch for trivia is a movie that both Todd and Zach love, and I loved it too. It is the 2015 film Welcome to Me, starring Kristen Wiig and James Marsden and Linda Cardellini, Joan Cusack. Oh, who else is in this? Jennifer Jason Leigh is in this. Tim Robbins, Wes Bentley. Alan Tudyk. I mean, it's got a huge cast for being such a small movie, but this movie was just wild and bizarre and different than almost anything else I'd ever seen. It is like Truman Show meets Network, kinda.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, you could that's kind of where I fell with it. You've got the main character, Alice Klieg, played by Kristen Wiig, who is got some borderline personality disorder, and she wins the lottery and decides to use her money to go to the local public access television station and buy 150 or no, what was it? Yeah, 100 episodes of her own show where she would talk about herself. And it was going to be called Welcome to Me. And it is just her like working out her own personal problems and demons live on air for everyone else to hear. It is bizarre. She wants to ride out on a swan. Okay. And then you've got Lindy Cardellini, who's her best friend. You've got James Marsden, who's the money hungry studio exec who realizes that he's got a cash cow in front of him that he can milk for as much as he can. Wes Bentley, who's slowly falling in love with her, who's the brother of James Marsden. You've got Joan Cusack, the producer, who has to try and figure out how to make this show work. It is bizarre. And then you have Tim Robbins, her therapist, who is just trying to figure out what's going on. It is a crazy look into some mental illness, but also at the same time just so much fun and ridiculous. I think this came up a couple weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago now. Todd, I think, remind me if I'm wrong, but I think this was on your like highest war of the decade list.
Yeah,
wasn't
this was me. This was my choice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I totally agree, because nobody other than Kristen Wiig could pull this off. It is a total like Kristen Wiig special, and 3.5 stars. This movie's insane.
Well, Shira Piven is a unique character. She is married to Adam McKay and the older sister of Jeremy Piven. So she's got some serious comedy in her veins, and very weird comedy. I mean, I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of 2015, and obviously Kristen Wiig. She's my best actress winner. One of the weirder, best performances I've ever seen.
It's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. And and then there's the film student who's watching it and like studying it. It's like, what a great call and diversity for the reenactment. Why did you make that bold choice? I don't know. She was just the prettiest that day. I mean, it's so just so like this was. I'd be surprised if this wasn't made as just a Kristen Wiig like vehicle, and I don't think it was, because it was just like this random indie movie that she got. But I can't imagine anybody else filling that role.
Yeah, it's a classic, and it's cult for sure. It's the kind of movie where like you're watching and people walk into the room and they're like, "What is this?" And those are the best kind of movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I love just the gradual level of frustration that like Joan Cusack and all the production assistants, as the movie goes along, like I think that everybody can associate with those feelings a lot, and just their faces and their reactions are priceless.
Tim Robbins is one of my favorites in it too, because he's just level-headed the whole time and is like the voice of the audience in this. It's like, why are you doing this? It's like, I'm not letting you in. Is it because I put you on the show without asking? Yes, it is. I mean, it was, I love it. It was great. It was great.
I think there could have been a couple other actresses. I think Aubrey Plaza could have done it, and Charlene Yee could have done it. But it's hard. Kristen Wiig does do an amazing job of pulling it off, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's that. Todd, it is trivia time. Tell us what we're doing.
All right, so I have a couple categories. Since it's Oscar season, I'm doing a couple vaguely related to Oscar categories. The first one is going to be the movies that are on the AFI Top 100. Either one of them that were not nominated for Best Picture. There's 32 of them total on either the 2007 or 2000 or 1998 list that were not nominated for Best Picture that appear on the AFI Top 100 list.
Wow.
Which 32 is a pretty big number considering AFI makes part of their criteria the how well they did with awards.
Okay.
Since Terry liked the movie, I gave him more. I will go with Zach first.
Modern Times?
Modern Times is correct.
City Lights.
Damn you, Terry.
City Lights is also correct.
Bringing Up Baby?
Bringing Up Baby is correct.
Do the Right Thing.
Do the Right Thing is correct.
Some Like It Hot?
Some Like It Hot is correct.
Toy Story.
Nice. Toy Story is also correct.
Now you're saying both. You're accepting both lists.
Yes, he said
Yeah.
both lists.
Okay, The Sixth Sense. No shit. I'm sorry. That was nominated. Can I take it back? I'm sorry.
He had yet to
didn't
rule.
say anything. So
Yeah,
Okay.
so you're good.
I'm sorry. I don't know why that. Okay. Shoot, Psycho.
Yeah, there we go. I was wondering if someone was going to get that. We just mentioned it last week. That's correct.
Swing Time.
Ooh.
Swing Time. That's a good one. That's correct.
Sullivan's Travels.
That is also correct.
Oh, it is on the list. Okay. Birth of a Nation was on one of the lists, right?
I don't have that written down. Was that on?
I think it was on the first list.
Boy, I'd be surprised if that was on it. I know there was another Griffith film that was on it, but
okay, hold on. I mean, that sounds right, but I didn't come.
I'm almost positive it was on the first list.
This was on. I got this from a Sporkle list, so I mean, there is a possibility of an issue.
Oh no, I shouldn't look this up. I'll let you look it up.
Yeah, no, I'm working on it. Hold on. Okay, yeah, that was okay. Birth of a Nation was number 44 on the 1997 list. So, the whoever Sporkle quiz screwed that up. So that is also correct.
Intolerance. The other Griffith film.
That's not on this list either. But hold on. Make sure
you just search it. See, I thought that usually they go with Intolerance as the more acceptable.
Well, Intolerance is number 40. Wait, no. Hold on. Yeah, 49 on the 2007 list. So I don't know. Okay, so I have a flawed list here. So I'm gonna have to double check like everything now.
The General.
Yeah, I was gonna go with that.
See, I don't have that written down either.
That was like number 15 on the new list. On 2007 list, it was definitely on the list.
Yeah, that's got to be there.
I'm at a slight advantage, having been a frequent listener to the Unspooled podcast.
It was on one of the lists. It was on the 2007 list.
Yeah.
And number 18.
Oh, I said 15. I was close.
So so the whatever list I had is completely screwed up. So okay, well, keep going.
The Big Sleep.
That is not on my list. So okay, I will double check here in a second.
It might not be.
No, that's not on the list.
All right.
So it is 6-6.
I got two more. Okay, throw them out there. Duck Soup and A Night at the Opera.
Those sound right.
Duck Soup is correct. And Night at the Opera is correct.
That's the only reason I've seen those.
Well, hold on. Okay, so maybe some of these movies were nominated for Best Picture. Was Intolerance nominated for Best Picture? That was 1916. Okay, no. Okay, and The General, and that was before.
That was 26.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay, well, the rest of this list included stuff like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Blade Runner, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Easy Rider, King Kong, North by Northwest,
King Kong,
Rear Window, obviously Vertigo, Sophie's Choice, Singing in the Rain,
the rest of the Hitchcock movies that we
we missed those,
and of course Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that did not go as well as I thought. Thank you, Sporkle, whoever that asshole was. I'm going to look who it was, and I'm going to yell at him.
But I thought we did pretty well.
Yeah, you knocked out 12 of the, I have no idea how many there actually are now. So. My other category, so it has been 45 years since All the President's Men was released in theaters this month, and that obviously stars Dustin Hoffman. So I want to know the other 21 movies that Dustin Hoffman was in that were nominated for any Oscar. And if you can name one of the Oscars that it was nominated for, you get another half point.
Ooh. And this isn't like since All the President's Men. This is
total movies that Dustin Hoffman has been in. There are 21 movies that he has been in, other than All the President's Men, that have been nominated for a single Oscar or more. And so I have to start with Terry.
Well, I'm going to start with Barney's version for best makeup.
That is correct.
Nice. I'm going to go with my favorite movie of all time, Kramer versus Kramer, which I believe won Best Picture.
That is also correct.
I'm going to go with Rain Man, which I believe won Best Picture.
Another correct choice.
The Graduate, which won Best Director.
That is correct.
Tootsie was nominated for Best Picture.
Also correct.
Marathon Man, which I think was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but I'm not sure.
That is correct.
All right, cool.
Midnight Cowboy won Best Picture.
Oh, yeah.
That it did.
Wag the Dog for Screenplay.
That is correct. He was also nominated for Best Actor.
Wow. Oh gosh.
5.
Stranger Than Fiction for screenplay? I think that's wrong though.
That is wrong.
It should have been though.
It could have been.
That movie's brilliant.
Zach, do you have anything else? You are, so you're 10, 12. You are down 14 to 12.
Well, I have a title, but I think I'm going to butcher it. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Papillon.
Okay, Papillon is correct.
Okay. One more.
You want to take a stab at what the nomination was?
Oh, for Papillon?
Yeah.
Sound. I don't know.
No, it was nominated for score.
Okay.
But that's not that you can keep going.
Lenny.
Lenny is correct.
Oh.
Best Actor.
Best Actor is correct, as well as Best Picture.
Yeah,
and that gives you the win with 12 and a half points.
And then can I say the crazy one?
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium.
That is not correct.
Oh, didn't that
there
get
are a
like
couple other ones?
Didn't that get like a Best Makeup or something? I don't know. What
ones you missed?
Straw Dogs, was that nominated?
That was nominated for score.
Okay.
You guys missed Kung Fu Panda 1 and 2. A Series of Unfortunate Events was nominated for 4 Oscars.
He was in that?
I don't remember.
Finding Neverland.
Oh, Terry.
Sleepers was nominated for score. Hook was nominated for 5 Oscars. Dick Tracy was nominated for, looks like, I think 7 Oscars.
He was in that.
Some movie called Agatha. Who is Harry Kellerman and blah blah blah, whatever the title is. Little Big Man, and that was it. So you guys did actually really well. You only missed like the obscure ones or ones that he has a big part in. But Zach is the trivia champion.
All right. Quote of the day, and Zach, you get to go first.
Okay, so my quote, I couldn't come up with a good one today. My quote comes from Lawrence Tierney. If I remember Lawrence Tierney, I would have gone back to the documentary and said Quentin Tarantino's quote about him or Tim Roth's quote. But I'm just going to go from Reservoir Dogs, and it's when Mr. Pink is upset at Lawrence Tierney for not being able to pick his own name, and he says, "No way. Tried it once, it don't work. You get 4 guys all fighting over who wants to be Mr. Black, but they don't know each other, so nobody wants to back down. No way. I pick. You're Mr. Pink. Be careful you're not Mr. Yellow."
Awesome.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, Todd.
Okay, well, the Screen Actors Guild Awards are on currently. which I don't have on right now. But I'm going back to this speech by Brad Pitt last year at the Screen Actors Guild Awards that he was accepting for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And during his speech, he says, I want to thank Margot Robbie's feet, Dakota Fanning's feet. Seriously, Quentin separated more women from their shoes than the TSA.
What makes the quote is the That's what makes it. All right. Well, my quote comes from. I mean, honestly, if we were all being honest with ourselves, my quote comes from the #1 performance by someone over 70. Because when 900 years old you reach, look as good you will not. I mean, Yoda. He was 900. He was 900 when he made that performance.
How did Adam not have that on his list?
I know, right?
How did we not predict it?
I was like, yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah. All right. Well, with Yoda, we're going to bring this podcast to a close. Yoda, Brad Pitt, and Lawrence Tierney. That's what you get with the Almost Sideways podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, make sure you subscribe, rate, review. Make sure you also fill out your Oscar Challenge ballot. See if you can predict the winners. We've got a few more weeks before the Oscars, but they are coming up quick. 3 weeks from today, I think. Yeah. So make sure you do that. We'll be back at you soon with some more content. Until then, have fun watching movies, and we'll catch you on the flip side.